Bedrosian throws to Sandberg, and the pitch is grounded to second base. Thompson has it, throws to first. It's over. 27 years of waiting have come to an end. The Giants have won the pennant.
All right, we're back on Thompson to Clark after pretty frustrating week of Giants baseball, I guess would be the right way to say it.
Yeah, frustrating, angry, crappy. I don't know. It's just, man, you walk away from this week and you're like, what were we, 2-5?
Yeah.
It could have been 5-2. Could have
Yeah.
been 6-1.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think, if anybody, I'll share the slate again here. We're going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly from this week. And I think it's a pretty good week to do so because it's easy to bag on this team this week in particular. And I've had this thing about them not beating the teams that they should beat. And so you can imagine how frustrated I was losing 2 of 3 at home to the Reds.
Yeah.
Poor Bry. He went to 2 of the games, and it was the 2 games that they lost.
Yeah, we are not allowed, Bry, to go to any more games unless it's go to the Dodger games in Dodger Stadium because you have a home team curse now. So you need to go there.
But what you just said a couple of seconds ago about what their record could have been this week. Now, I don't know I forget the starter for the Reds on Friday. He was kind of dealing, and they didn't really have that many good shots at him. So they probably lose that game. They definitely lose Sunday. Mm-hmm. But those Braves games, we were kind of joking because every time we record when they play, they win. And so they won that Tuesday game when we last recorded our episode. And then Wednesday, they're leading going into the 9th inning, and here we are thinking like, oh man, they're about to go on a run. If you can beat Atlanta in Atlanta, it's just going to kickstart all of these nice things. And they didn't hold the lead, and that kind of killed the rest of the week for them. But we're going to get into all of that stuff. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We have other stuff that we're going to talk about as well. We'll do player of the week. We'll do a little bit of a minors update. Brad and I are following 2 players in the Giants minor league system each and updating them, every few weeks, every month or so. So we'll get to that at the end. Was there any real news this week? Usually on Monday, the team throws out an update and it's like, oh, here's the situation with the injuries. And I guess the real news is probably B-Craw. Brandon Crawford getting hurt, which really, and he's just not even having a great defensive season for him, but it really like their infield defense is just all out of whack. Yeah. Like they're like with having to move Tyro to play short and having Donnie Walton of all people having to be the backup shortstop. Like it is not a good look for this defense, and it really shows you the value of Brandon Crawford, who he's been the starting shortstop since 2011. And so, man, just a few games with this guy not being there and everything goes to hell.
Yeah. And this is what you do to yourself though. When you create a team that's going to score runs, hit home runs, but who cares if you have somebody who's a set position player other than Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt, Evan Longoria. Other than that, it's kind of like we'll kind of put people where they go on the infield. And if somebody gets hurt, we've got 87 guys that can play second base. We have 27 guys who can play third base. It's like, well, yeah, but not great. Not great infielders, but we'll just stick them there. And then if they give up 2 runs, then we'll score 7 runs in the next couple of innings. Well, they're not doing that. So if you don't do that, your formula kind of goes out the window. It's bad math. I hate math to begin with, but and just, bad math all around when you look at it that way.
Yeah. So, when it comes to, there's another thing. So I don't know where you stand on this, but Andrew Baggerly, he wrote a piece basically saying that, the team is generally a good team, right? They're still several games above 500. They're still in the mix for the wild card. They're not a bad team, but the attendance is lower than it was in 2019 when they were not a very good team. And his this is a hypothesis. He's not saying that this is exactly what's happening, but he's kind of wondering that they were sort of conservative on the free agent market this year, and what they may have been backing and what they may have had sort of maybe even taken for granted is that, this is a good fan base. Like, they understand, they're smart, they understand winning baseball. No Buster Posey from a star power perspective, that takes a hit. Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt are still very popular players. Brandon Belt a little bit more polarizing to the fan base, but not at that Buster level. So there's also this sort of lack of star player out there who's not there. And we've talked about this before, or I'm not sure if I talked about it here or because I was also on Giant Cocktails podcast with Matthew, as Ben, his brother Ben, was out of town, and we were kind of talking about who do you go out and see? Well, we thought it was going to be Joey Bart. Turned out to not be Joey Bart. And so, if you're a casual Giants fan, who are you going to the park to watch these days? For me, if I was to answer that question for myself, I'm definitely going on a Webb or Rodon start, no matter what, because those guys are dealing. But offensively, I don't know. Is it Darren Ruff? Is it Baby Yaz? He's not been the Yasmanian Devil, so I've pulled that nickname away for him until he gets hot again. He's back to Baby Yaz, and we'll go through some numbers there. But who would you go? If you were just who's there to see?
Well, as you and I are the hardcore Giants fans, so that's a harder question for
Baseball
us.
is the sell for us.
That's it. The Giants putting up numbers, putting up offense. Like they did on Saturday. What did they score? 9 runs on Saturday. So we're going to see that because we know this team can do that. We're not going to see Yaz hit 2 home runs because he's not going to. We're not going to see Slater, go 4 for 4 because he's not going to. Yeah, you're right. We're not going to see any particular offensive player. We're just going to watch baseball. But as the middle fan, and again, Bags was talking about it in his article. He said, hey, the fan base was there until the end. They were rowdy till the end. But you know why? And he didn't mention this in the article. As I'm reading it, I'm going, well, yeah, because a family of 4 goes to the ballpark and you're out like $500 to $600. So you're not going to leave in the 7th inning. You're going to kind of hang out till the end of the ball game, no matter. It's a beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
You're going to hang out and then you're going to go get some dinner and make your way home. But just the regular fan, I think they're coming to see the opposing teams. There wasn't a huge draw to see the Reds when the Dodgers come into town. They fill the ballpark.
Yeah, those bleachers, man. It's like the Dodger fans go, "Hey guys, we're just gonna buy out the bleachers."
Yeah, exactly. And they've done that for a few years, and hey, good on them. They're selling tickets. It's a sellout. It's a fun atmosphere. Dodgers come in. All the Dodger fans come in. They can watch their team get swept by the Giants like they did. Come on in and see it every time.
Exactly.
But yeah, I couldn't even tell you. And but when you look at the minors, and we're going to talk about some minor stuff later.
Yeah.
When you look at the minors, when an Elliot Ramos comes up, everybody goes, "Ooh, I got to get to the ballpark." Ramos is playing. I've even heard you say it. I've heard Brian say it. Oh, Ramos is coming up this weekend. Maybe we should hop out there to the ballpark because it's a draw. It's an excitement. What happens when Kyle Harrison comes up? What happens when Sean Jelly starts to kind of really come into his own in the majors, and he's making a start. Oh, we got to go see him. He's starting today, and he's good. He's up to 7 or 8 innings, 6, 7, 8 innings. We can see him throw and strike out, maybe 8 or 9 guys. Other than that, it's kind of like you're just going to the ballpark for the experience, and thank goodness we have the ballpark for the experience, because going to a Giants game at Oracle Park, I've been to a lot of ballparks around the country, not as many as most people, but I've been to quite a few. There's nothing like it, man. There's nothing like going on a nice Saturday afternoon, Friday night, whatever it is. You go to the ballpark, you have yourself a good time. You're not going to watch Donnie Walton smack one up the middle to raise his average to 193. You're not going for that.
Donnie Walton is
sorry to pick on him, but
yeah. Well, look, he's filling in. He's filling in a spot which they need him to fill in. Now, when they have the full roster, I don't know. I don't remember what his options are like, but he's not going to be on the big league team. He's a utility guy, right? I'm trying to think of when's the last time we had such a soft hitting guy playing a lot, though. Because man, that guy's a soft hitting guy.
Mike Benjamin, maybe.
I was thinking of remember when the 1 year? Gosh, this is going back like 15 years, maybe now. Maybe not quite 15, but Brian Bocock, who didn't play above San Jose, but they needed him just because he could field. And I was like, oof.
That was brutal.
We need to get
Brian Bocock. How about Joaquin the Dream Arias? You know,
he had a little bit of punch, but yeah, he was mostly a defensive guy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean those aren't the guys that you're running to the ballpark and you're like, I got to get tickets for this weekend against
Mike
the Reds,
Fontenot.
Yeah, Mike Fontenot. Yeah, now you're just pulling out the all the Southern California long hair blonde guys going out and hanging out at the beach and then coming to the ballpark and you're hitting some soft grounders to third, rolling over on some curveballs.
All right, before we get to our good, the bad, and the ugly, let's talk about the player of the week here. Yeah, because if you look at that player of the week list, there's some good players on that list, and you go, oh, there's 3 legitimate candidates. Giants had a good week, but it's almost like nobody else played well except for those 3 guys.
Yeah, you know what? And hitting wise, there were a bunch of carbon copies this week. A lot of guys just kind of had similar weeks. Nothing outrageously fantastic, not terrible. But yeah, let's look at the list. We've got coming in third, Evan Longoria hit 333 this week, 435 WOBA, 2 home runs, 3 ribs, 6 runs scored. Had a nice fat 13.8% walk rate. That's pretty good. And then Jock Peterson ended up coming in second place with 36.4% of the vote, 318 average, 472 WOBA, 3 home runs, 3 RBI, all solo shots, 3 runs scored, 12.5%.
What about that muscle shot against Kenley Jansen? Woo!
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, and again, what was that, a 7-5 ball game? Yeah. So you knew a solo shot was coming and we were going to lose by 1 run. It's just kind of the way things have been going.
Totally.
Yeah, so 12.5% K rate on the week. The winner this week, Logan Webb, 2 starts. He had a 2-start week. Looked really, really good. Giants offense just couldn't get him the 2 wins. Ended up going 1-0 with a 0.69 microscopic ERA, of 2.82 FIP. 13 innings. He had 9 K per 9, 1.38 walks per 9, and he is our player of the week. Look at that smile. He's just always raring to go and have himself a good time.
If Richie Cunningham was a baseball player, that's Logan Webb.
Yeah, Potsy would just tell him to sit on it, right? Or no, it was sit on it, Potsy.
They would tell Potsy to sit on it.
That's true.
Okay, so we're gonna get to. There's some fantastic Logan Webb numbers that we're gonna get to here in a second. But before that, let's talk about what we are imbibing for this show. I'll start with mine because I'm a little off center from normal.
Yeah,
and I have a little story to go with this. So, my wife gets a lot of headaches when she drinks. So, we'll take time away from having some wine or whatever. But it's sort of inconsistent. So sometimes we'll be like, oh yeah, like feel fine, like we can have a glass of wine. And so we've been on a nice run. We've had this I think the wine is, gosh, now I was like, memorize the name.
Yeah.
Robert Robert
Uh-huh.
Mondavi. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's inexpensive. It's not
Mhm.
just like this super crazy price. And they do a whiskey barrel version as well, which is always great. So we found this little sweet spot of this wine. And I was so I checked in with her. I was like, so how are you feeling? How's are you okay? No headaches? And she's like, nope. I was like, because we can we like to check in because it's almost like when you have kids and they want McDonald's every day, and you're like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
McDonald's needs to be a treat. It can't be like just normal lunch or dinner. Like then it just
Yeah.
takes away the specialness of what McDonald's is for kids. And so we sort of do the same thing with wine. We're like, okay, we don't have to drink. We can kind of pull back and make sure that it's special, make sure we're not doing drinking a little bit too much. And so we like to do that check-in. And so she's like, no, I feel fine. And I was like, okay, like I'm good then. If we want to, no kids this week, we can watch some TV and have some wine. So I was like, yeah, we can drink a little bit more this week. And so she goes to the store and she kind of comes in through the door and she kind of sneaks, but she's sneaking in a way that she wants me to see that she's sneaking. And she turns the thing because we usually just buy wine one bottle at a time, because if we have
Yeah.
like a ton of wine, we're just going to drink a ton of wine. And so
Yeah.
she kind of turns the little thing. She's got the 6-pack carrier of Robert Mondavi wine. And I was like, did we just have this conversation? She's like, yeah, but it was like all on sale. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to
Can't pass
we're
up
gonna
a
have
good
to
deal.
can't pass up a good deal, but we'll have to be disciplined on our own.
Yeah.
We can't just go by the rule of, okay, if the wine bottle is out, then we're done. No, we're gonna have to be a little bit more disciplined. But drinking wine is so much fun, and especially if
Yeah.
you have a significant other who enjoys it, you can just literally just watch TV, goof around, have wine, and everyone feels fantastic. So I'm
Yeah, for
going
sure. And
with my cab of Robert
look at that,
Mondavi.
the red, big meaty red on a hot summer day. Although
Mhm.
yours is a little bit cooler down in
Yeah,
the
it's
Bay
only in
Area
the
now.
low
So
80s here, so not
yeah,
bad.
we got 97 again. High today was 99. It's just, I mean, I got the AC on, I got the fan go. I'm wearing the light yellow, like almost see-through shirt because I'm dying today. So yeah, so I went a couple of ice cubes and our old friend, Uncle Nearest, our old buddy.
Oh, wow. I haven't
So
had a beers in a while.
yeah, so I went for a slug of that. We were at the in-laws yesterday, and I had a couple of the oh, I can't even remember what they're called now. The tequila and grapefruit Zevia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
The Paloma, you called it.
Palomas, yeah, the makeshift Palomas with a couple of limes in there. So I had those yesterday, and so I thought today, it's kind of a bourbon day. It's pretty hot. I'm throwing a couple of ice cubes and cool things down. Another a good red too. I don't know if you guys have it down there. It's called Pacific Redwood. It's an
Hmm.
organic cab. It's called a North Coast Cabernet Sauvignon. Denise gets that because when she drinks reds, she has a sulfur sensitivity,
Mm.
and there's a lot of sulfites in red wine making, especially. So she drinks that and doesn't get the red face and
Oh,
the
wow, okay.
stuffiness and everything. And so that's a good one. So maybe try that.
I'll have to look
If
that one up.
stave off the headaches. But yeah, she really likes that one a lot. So
Yeah.
imbibe,
Yes. So
enjoy.
now you get see, I was so happy with my wine, and then I see you with your Uncle Nearest, and I'm like, man, I want some whiskey. Okay.
Well,
So
there's always it's always a reach away when the show's over.
all right, so let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not going to just read all the goods and then all the bads and all the uglies. We're going to kind of
Yeah.
mix them up here, but I do have them on a list. I sent Brad the list to get his feedback on it. Okay, so we'll start with the good, and I teased it with the Logan Webb stuff. Logan Webb and Carlos Rodon are all-stars. Flat
Yeah.
out. They're all-stars. Now, will they make the all-star team? Well, if Jock makes it, then maybe they can't get all three guys on the team. We'll see what happens there. But last 30 days, so the last month of the season, Webb has 6 starts, 38 and a third innings, 28 hits, 10 earned runs, 41 strikeouts, only 8 walks, 2.35 ERA, 0.94 whip, 9.67 Ks per 9, 1.88 walks per 9. Just fantastic. Just having, because we had sort of talked about this earlier, and we were doing the game of Are You Worried Yet? And we had talked about Logan because he was, he would have a few innings and then boom, give up like 3 runs, and then he'd be fine. But he has really turned into a number one, and the Giants have the luxury, and it's unfortunate that they're not doing more with this, of having 2 number ones, because Carlos Rodon, last 30 days, 5 starts, 30 innings, so 6 innings a start, 17 hits he's only given up, with 37 strikeouts and also just 8 walks, 4 earned runs, 1.20 ERA in the last month, 0.159 batting average against. So if you were to look at those 2 guys and not know anything else about the Giants, you'd be like, wow, their starting staff has got to be tremendous, right? This is like Maddox and Glavine,
Yeah.
But we just don't have the Smoltz and Avery piece of that, because after those guys, it gets a little bit shaky. We were talking, I was like, I think last week I was talking, Alex Wood's been consistent. No, I was absolutely 100% wrong. He's been consistently bad, is what he's been. Alex Cobb, he has those flashes, but then he also gives up like these laser beams. And we'll see what happens when Junis comes back. But Disco, 2 starts back, and he has looked every bit of below average, and you kind of wonder what they think about that 3-year contract they signed him to. I'm sure they believe that he's going to get back to whatever they feel is who he really is. But man, what they sort of believed the back half of the rotation was going to be, and we've talked about it. It's not about 30 starts a pitcher. It's about 162 starts for the whole rotation. And getting through 3 through 5 and getting back to Webb has been really rough for them.
Yeah. Can we still use the excuse of not much spring training? No, it's June. We can't. It's almost July.
But I think you can. I think you can to an extent.
A little bit.
Because Baggerly was talking about Crawford, and Crawford's main takeaway from the difference between this season and last season is the fact that they didn't have prep time. And so I don't know what that means. Like, these are athletes who condition themselves pretty much all year long. So I don't know exactly what he missed out on, like some of the smaller things that maybe fine tune his skills, but that's part of it. The problem with that excuse, though, is like that for every team, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is like that for every team. But I mean, when you look up and down the majors, Giants pitching staff is, and again, because of Webb and Rodon, Giants pitching staff is pretty average, above average, I'd say. Well, I don't know. I don't want to look at the numbers. I just want to pretend like they're average or above average. Let's go with that. But when you look up and down the majors, it's just kind of the way it is right now. But yeah, because the other thing too is you look at Cobb. Because I'm looking at the starters here. You look at Cobb. You look at DeSclafani. Both of them, I mean, Cobb's got 46 innings pitched. DeSclafani's got 19 innings pitched. Jacob Junis has 38 innings pitched. Giants said at the beginning of the season they're going to need a lot of pitchers to get through the season. But we just don't have anybody right now of those 3 guys. Junis is hurt. Cobb was hurt. DeSclafani was hurt. We don't have any of those 3 guys with the consistency, the start after start after start after start, then getting hurt and then saying, okay, I'm going to miss a start and I'm going to come back. Oh no, they're missing big time starts. They're missing a lot of starts. So there's just not that consistency. I mean, I can't even imagine, knock on fake. No, that's real wood. I can't even imagine something happens to Webb or Rodon at this point because the
Yeah.
team would be majorly screwed.
And that's
We
probably why Kapler is pretty conservative with Rodon, right?
Yeah.
Like he's only
Yeah,
averaged
for
6
sure.
innings per start. And there have been, look right when he gets to that 100 pitch count, it's like, okay, we're not messing around with this guy.
Yeah, this isn't Kane, Lincecum, Baumgartner, 50-50, Jonathan Sanchez,
Vogelsong.
Vogelsong. I mean, it's not that. It's two guys, and then let's see what we've got after that. Will they come around? I don't know. Let's look at some of the numbers. DeSclafani, his ground ball percentage is 43.7% right now in his 19 innings. That's pretty low. That's below Junis. But it's actually above Carlos Rodon. But he's not, not as consistent with the strikeouts, although he is striking out 8 per 9. Rodon is striking out, leading the Giants with 11.36 per 9. Who's second on the Giants in strikeouts? That's Alex Cobb at 10.37 per 9. So, the strikeouts are there. The walks are pretty high for Alex Cobb at 2.74 per 9. Alex Wood at 2.66 per 9. There's really nothing in there that screams, hey, we're going to turn this around and things are going to look really good. Of course, this page locked up on me, but I wanted to look at FIP, and I can still actually see it. So you look at Alex Cobb, and we've talked about this before because he got tapped around in a couple of starts. 5.48 ERA with a 3.21 WHIP. So he's still controlling things for the most part. Alex Wood, 5.05 ERA. FIP is 3.61. So it's magnified. When you're not pitching well and your defense is wretched, I can say that because it's like dead last in the league. When your defense is wretched, then what do? I mean, you put the ball in play and you just pray that somebody's going to make a play on the ball. And I think that's kind of the situation the Giants are in right now. Because even when they're inducing the ground balls like they're supposed to, that's why the Giants signed a lot of these guys. That's what they preach: ground ball, ground ball, ground ball. Keep it on the ground, keep it out of the air, especially when you go to the home run ballparks. So if you're not making the plays behind the pitcher, then you just start to inflate that ERA. Runs come in to score, but the FIP looks really nice. The FIP always looks really pretty in the end, but it's just not telling the whole story right now.
Yeah, so, what does their pitching staff do very well? They don't walk hitters. They force the other team to put the ball in play. You know what else they don't do? They don't give up home runs. They are the second best team in baseball at keeping the ball in the yard for their opponents. So they do those things very well, and because of that, I think they're going to mostly stay. They're going to stay in games, right? They're going to be competitive, even if they're not striking at a ton of guys, which they don't. After Webb and Rodon, they don't strike out anybody from the starting staff. Alex Cobb when he pitches, but he's been sort of inconsistent. I think he will, as he pitches more, that will raise it up. But Wood, DeSclafani, Junis, not big strikeout guys. The one thing, though, because they don't walk people and because they don't give up a lot of home runs, the one thing they do give up are hits, and they are in the bottom 10 in the league when it comes to the opposing team's batting average. So when the other team puts the ball in play and you have terrible defense, bad things happen. So yes. I would love to hear what they think about that, because if you look at the Yerminator who they picked up, that is an offensive play. That is not a defensive play, right? So it looks like they are staying with what they're doing, but the effects of what they're doing so far has been very, very negative to the pitching staff. And I don't know if you can change that mid-season, right? You probably can't. Now, One of the ways that you can change that is if you get a starter or a reliever or two who are high strikeout guys. And those guys are going to be at a premium. So you're going to give up a lot to get those guys. But okay, so let's look at We talked about the good, and we sort of focused on the bad, which I was going to focus on as well. So we kind of knocked two birds out with one stone. The ugly would have been A, losing 2 out of 3 to the Reds, and B, Sunday. What the hell was Sunday's baseball game? That was like a bad high school baseball team who can't field the ball, and then when they do, they can't throw it, and then they're tracking down balls in the outfield, and then they slip, and they're giving up extra bases left and right, and then Brandon Belt throws behind the reliever covering first base, and it just looks like the Keystone Cops. And someone needed to play music to some of those plays. It was disgusting.
If you know what, if you were to tell, if somebody were to come up to me and say, and I've had this before, I wear a Giants hat. Hey, how they doing this season? I would say, go watch the highlights from Saturday's game.
Yes.
Then watch the highlights from Sunday's game. That's how the season's going. That's exactly how the season is going. It's sad to say, but this team could look like world beaters one day, and the next day they could look like they just stepped off the bus from rookie ball and they walked out onto the field and they said, oh, we're facing Nolan Ryan and whoever else, all the all-stars from the 80s. Okay, let's see what we can do. But it's the Cincinnati Reds. So then you're like, oh, it's very frustrating to watch. But to play off what you were saying earlier, just watch the highlights from Sunday's game. And that's all you need to see. Bloop hits, ground balls up the middle that should be play. Austin Slater doesn't misplay fly balls, but what does he do with 2 outs yesterday? Misplays a fly ball. We have a 7-run third inning, and the game is just blown open, and it's out of reach at that point. Because also, so the Giants team could be made for scratching and clawing back, and we saw that against the Braves on that 9:30 a.m. game. We saw them go down. What was it? 5-1, 6-1. They scratched and clawed back and lost 7-6. But the problem is, a lot of times when the Giants get down 7-0, they're going to give up 3 or 4 more runs. So how many runs can your offense score and stay ahead of your defense that's going to botch a ground ball or botch a double play or not get to a bloop hit that should have been caught by an infielder? It's just, it's hard to watch right now. And where do you point the finger? Do you point it at Zadie? It's hard to, because he built a team that won 107 games last year. So you kind of have to you kind of have to believe in what he's doing. But sometimes in a science experiment, you throw together a formula and you go, well, that's not the same as it was yesterday. So we kind of have to, tweak this. But yeah, I mean, that kind of comes into play with the whole, here comes the trade deadline. Is this team a buyer team or is this team a seller team? Right now, I would say it's a stand pat team and eat your contracts, because you trade DeSclafani, who's going to want him?
Nobody.
And who's going to want that contract? But if you do, you're going to get nothing in return, and then who's replacing him? So you're not a seller. You're certainly not a seller with some of the contracts that they have. So
I think they're a buyer, and I think they owe it to themselves to, they've been patient, right? That is kind of their game, is they just sort of wait and see what happens, and then they jump on opportunities. I don't think they're going to make a Chris Bryant trade. No. Even though they could, realistically, they could, though we'll talk about the minors in a second. The minor league, I don't think the minor league system is seen as it was last year, just because some of the top prospects aren't doing as well. But there are opportunities for these relievers who, it just doesn't seem like it's a Zadie move. Or Matthew on Giant Cocktails podcast, he pronounced it so much better than I do. Zaidi. I just want to say Zadie, just because that's how it looks like how it's supposed to say Zaidi.
Yeah.
He's not going to buy or trade for the tippy top arm that's going to cost him a top guy. It's just not what they do. But I'm sure he could find a fringe guy, and I imagine that's what they're looking for, right? Because, and we'll get to this in a second, but you can't tell me that Jake McGee and Rogers are 7 and 8 guys anymore. I just don't buy it. I don't buy that they are 7 and 8 inning guys anymore.
No,
and that's part of the bad. Going back to the good, the bad, and the ugly. That is in my bad scenario, which is these guys who worked fantastically for you last year, they're not working fantastically for you this year. And we have 3 months of data now to say that. Though, if you look at the last 30 days, Tyler Rogers' stats are not horrible.
No,
he's just giving up, big hits in the worst times. If you look at Duvall's the one whose numbers actually look a little worse than Rogers, but when you watch it, you wouldn't think so. But I'm not convinced that he's the 9th inning guy, right? Like, it seems so much better for the team that he actually throws the 8th inning, and then you have somebody like a Jensen, or how is Kimbrel dealing for the Dodgers? I don't even know, but I just feel like when you have
he started out hot, but it's kind of cooled off.
But whoever that closer is, I still feel better with Duvall as an 8 guy and have him, maybe in 2 or 3 years he's the man in the 9th. But I don't know, that back end of the bullpen who can finish out games is not. I'm not confident in those guys right now.
Yeah, and you've got a guy like Will Bednar, or not Will Bednar, but Bednar's brother,
David.
David Bednar, out in Pittsburgh. He's going to be the hot commodity because the guy throws 100. He's mowing down. I mean, what does he get? Like 8 save opportunities with the Pirates, but he's going to end up a closer for some team.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get the rich getting richer, and you're going to get somebody like the Braves to grab him as their 6th inning guy. And it's kind of a waste of that. But the Giants could use a guy like that.
Yeah.
Lengthen that bullpen. They've got Kervin Castro still in AAA. He's another guy. Do we start to take a look at him? And I think, like you were saying earlier too, we don't get that news like we get on Monday, and it's because we don't have a game today. So probably
we'll get it tomorrow. Yeah, we'll get it tomorrow.
So tomorrow we're going to get a lot of info. And guess what? Stop me if you've heard this before. There's a bad team coming into town. And what does that mean anymore? I mean, the Tigers are, the Tigers are coming into town after the Reds. We're looking at, oh, cool, we're going to go 6-0. No, we're not. It's, the Giants are going to keep playing Giants baseball right now, which is not the greatest brand of baseball at the moment. But so tomorrow before the game, are we going to get this big, this big list of, Sammy Long sent down, or this and that, and this and that. And then we bring up Kervin Castro and so-and-so, and all these other guys start coming up. Are we going to see a bullpen shift? No, that's not what this team does. So we are with these guys for right now, but for how long? How much longer do you think Kapler can sit there and go, I'm going to run Jake McGee out there again?
Yeah.
But again, a blip on the radar because he came back from the phantom injury, where he pitched in AAA and was throwing lights out, 95, 96 on the gun, and looked really good. And then he came in a 3-1 ball game. And I know you said like who was excited about that. And I was like, I was actually kind of excited. I was like, oh, he's going to come in and he's going to, show the old Jake McGee. We're going to get, and then it just snowballed. And I was like, oh my God, this is not happening. So yeah, it's been a frustrating couple of weeks, and usually we're super positive podcast, but right now I'm like, I don't know, where's the positivity? I mean, because here I am, bashing our team when the Tigers are coming into town. So,
let's add another good here because
there
is still some good stuff happening. Jock Peterson. He has been a very good player for the Giants this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some streakiness going on, right? He can be very streaky at some points. He can go on a barrage of, hitting just, these mammoth home run shots. And then, he goes and strikes out, and then they bench him against lefties. And That's going to happen. You know, we'll deal with that throughout the entire season with him. But overall, this guy he's just been the kick in the butt that they have needed offensively. Like, imagine where they are without him offensively. And this is a guy who they signed later in the spring training, or I guess lack of spring training or whatever, before the season started. He was a late guy, right? Because they're chasing Suzuki, they're chasing some of these other guys, and Peterson's kind of the guy that they were just like, okay, like he's gonna do some good stuff for us, but he wasn't our top player that we really wanted. And man, where would they be without this guy? He's got 17 jacks. Now, to your point about a lot of these are solo shots, and that is not his fault as much as the people in front of him.
Sure.
39 RBI, hitting 273, getting on base at a 35% clip, 580 slugging, 924 ops. Wow. What a get for them, considering what his price was. So good get. I think what's interesting about that is he's the kind of player that they already have, which is, we've joked about this, like all the DHs that they have on the team. Yet he has been able to kind of stand out because of his offensive explosion. You can go, okay, maybe he's not great defensively. Maybe we got to take him out and put in some defenders late in the game. Maybe against certain lefties he can't hit. But the overall production just is like, yeah, but he makes up for it because he's just killing the baseball where some of these other guys aren't. And we'll bring up those other guys here in a little bit. But I'm just 100% for Jock Peterson. He's been a positive. He seems like he's a very likable guy. He's been a good Giant so far. He's pretty smart with the media. I've become a big fan of his when, of course, when he was a dirty Dodger. I didn't like him at all.
No, nobody did. No, we weren't allowed to. And even when he went to Atlanta with the pearls and stuff, I was like, I hate that guy. Well, yeah, because he just came from the Dodgers and went to the Cubs, and then, hate the Dodgers, hate the Cubs, hate the Braves. So what do you do? But yeah, I mean, talk about, super big time bright spot. I love his swings, love to watch him hit. Cringe when he's playing left field. Fantastic on, what was that, Saturday? He made that play up against the wall that Tommy Pham hit the ball all the way out to left field, up against the wall, and Jock Peterson makes the play. But it was like routine play for anybody else, but it was like, dancing on roller skates for Jock Peterson out there in left field. But quick side note. I was just thinking, as you mentioned DHs again, let me know if any of this sounds like a bygone era, a forgotten era of baseball. But where is the Giants? And again, these are rhetorical questions because they just don't exist anymore. But where's the Giants leadoff hitter who can steal 40 bases and hit 310 with 2 home runs on the season and play a phenomenal center field or second base? Where's the Giants number 2 hitter who makes contact and doesn't strike out? Where's the Giants number 3 hitter who is your best hitter on the team, hits for average, hits for power? Where's the Giants number 4 hitter who blasts the ball into McCovey Cove, once a game? They don't exist anymore. That's just not baseball in 2022. Because I still think about what if a team put that together? You know what I mean? Team put that together nowadays. Could it survive? Could the team survive? Yeah, they'd probably win a lot of ball games. I'm sure. All of a sudden they turn everybody. They spin the whole game on its head by going, is this 1986? What's going on out here? I'm not understanding this brand of baseball. I'm not understanding guys who don't care about launch angles. But anyway, tangent side note. So,
okay, let's go another bad. We talked about the defense already, kind of earlier, so we don't have to double down there. Baby Yaz. Now, his last 30 games. I'm just looking. I like just slicing it up. Could have done 15, could have done 7. MLB lets you slice the data up by that.
Yeah.
But I just looked 30. Baby Yaz, in his last 30 games, or last 30 days, sorry, 95 at-bats, 36 strikeouts. He is almost doubling the next highest guy, which would be Jock. Jock and actually Luis Gonzalez. On top of that, he's hitting 168 in the last 30 days. And if you watch it, I don't think I saw that. Like I see the home runs. I see because he's got 4 of those. He tries his butt off. He's very dependable outfielder.
And that's why you can't take him out of the lineup.
Right.
That's the reason, because the rest of the defense is so bad that if you take Yaz out of the lineup, you're asking for trouble at that point.
So I don't know what that means, because, we were trying to tell Brian, because he was asking us, he was like, when was Mike Yastrzemski good? And we were like, 2020 bubble season. He was really good. And last year, not as great, but not, he's still having an okay year. He's hitting, 245 on the season. So not like the worst player in the league or anything, but I think we just expected him, because this is kind of how it works, right? And he's been somebody who's just a grinder. He's played in the minors for so long, finally got a spot with that bubble season Giants, and really played well. But what happens is that now teams plan around you when you're a good player. And so they planned around him last year. They were looking for his inadequacies, found a lot of them, and they're like, okay. And then what you expect is if he's a good player, or maybe even better than good, he looks at those things that they adjusted to, and he improves on those adjustments. That's the piece that hasn't happened yet, at least as far as I can tell. Maybe to some degree it has. It's just not showing up. But that is something that I think we expected to happen. And because it hasn't, because of the value that Kapler and Zadie have with him, because he still hits fairly high in the order. And I think he needs a big second half, or, maybe the 2020 year was a little bit of a fluke, and it's not who he really was. And we'll have to wait and see. And I'm rooting for the guy, because I think the guy's really good story. Obviously, he's got the lineage with the family. He's been easy to root for when you watch him play, because I think he plays baseball in a way that we would say, us old school guys would say, plays the right way, right? He does some things really well. I just want to see the guy hit, and he's struggling hitting, and that's what you get paid to do in baseball, is hit.
Well, it could be, you and I know this, we're dads. It could be he had a new baby in the offseason, so he's just not sleeping. No, I know. I'm sure they've got people for that, to get up in the middle of the night when mom gets up, and they probably have somebody to keep Yaz, to keep his sleep going, because, in his job, he's making quite a bit of money, so they want to keep him well rested. But I don't know. I was just looking at, what is it? Spot Track, which we love to look at. He's making 3.7 this year. He'll be 32 next year, and his first season of arbitration eligibility. Do you start to look around the All-Star break of this year to say, can we cut ties with him? Can we trade him somewhere to a team that says, we'll take 3 years of arbitration eligibility from Yastrzemski? Because, from a 3.7 million this year, he'll probably bump up to 5 or 6 next year. So it's going to be a low salary. It's not going to be huge. Lamont Wade Jr.'s coming back, hopefully healthy. And by the way, he's got to come back before Saturday because Saturday is Lamont Wade Jr. bobblehead day.
Oh, there we go.
So he's got to get back before Saturday. So that might be one of the roster moves we get tomorrow, him coming up, somebody moving down or whatever. But yeah, I hate to say it because like we talk about all the time, we love the guy. Great defensive right fielder. But when you're not hitting and you've built a team to hit and not necessarily be a defensive team, that can be troublesome. But like I said, you can't take him out of the lineup right now because he's one of the only ones making plays out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's tricky. It's tough to watch. I'll tell you that, because he did get hot. There was a stretch before this ugly stretch where he was starting to heat up. We go, oh, here he comes. All right, he's starting to hit, but it just kind of disappeared again.
Yeah. Okay, let's end it with a good one.
Yeah.
We'll go good, and some people may think like, we're not in here for it's all about wins and losses. Who cares about anything else? Yeah. I will say the Atlanta Braves are a really good baseball team.
They are.
And if you sort of pull back and you look at the big picture of what that series was, the Giants were playing with them. They were going toe to toe with these guys. And unfortunately, they just were able to pull games out that the Giants weren't. Some of this is that they did it at home. Some of this is that they're just really hot. I wanted to see them go in. The Dodgers came in right after the Giants. I wanted to see them just rip off 3 in a row. The Dodgers are good too, so they took 2 out of 3.
Yeah,
but the Braves started kind of poorly when the season started, maybe a little bit of championship hangover, but since then they've been awesome. In every single game in that series, I was like, oh, we're right there. But it's those little things, right? It's they have a little bit better of a last couple relievers in the bullpen. They have a Kenley Jansen, and we don't, right?
Right.
That's just the whole thing of it. They have some guys who were going up there and we're pretty confident that they were going to get the big hit. And we just don't have those guys, especially right now. We don't have those guys. You're just like, oh, let's just wait until the order turns over because our guys are going to come up and they're going to get knocks. Luis Gonzalez also hurt. He's got the old man injury of the back thing. He's only 26 though. He shouldn't be having these old man injuries like we talked about.
No, not at all.
But who is in this lineup where you're like, we're going to win this game. X is coming up. There's nobody. Jock is the one hitter who I think the other team is afraid of. And other than that, they can pitch to anybody. I truly believe that that's how those teams feel.
Yeah, you're right. I mean that's pretty much it, because you're not gonna. Well, we got to pitch to Jock Peterson because Crawford's up next. Well, and Crawford's hurt right now. But
yeah.
but before that, it was like, Crawford's just off to a very, very slow.
Yeah.
Can you even call it a start anymore? Again, we're almost in July. We're heading towards the All-Star break.
Yep.
And he's still struggling. Lots of injuries though. And again, this team is starting to show its age.
Yep.
With, Belt, Longoria, Crawford. That's 3/4 of your infield, and they are definitely starting to show their age. We should have kept Solano, right? Because then we'd have the over 35 club here pretty soon, right?
Yeah,
All infield over 35 club.
He was back in town this last weekend.
Yeah, he had a knock and an RBI yesterday. So, but yeah, it's you could play tough. If you could play tough with the good teams, you also have to beat the crappy teams.
Yeah.
And they hung tough in Atlanta, not ideal weather. It was hot and muggy, and they played tough, and they could have walked out of there split 2-2, but Mac Cheese just wasn't doing his thing. And then you come home and get smoked 2 out of 3 by the Reds, and
they were wearing fam shirts.
I know, man.
And they came in
but,
and they ate our lunch.
When you sent that to me too, the picture of them wearing the fam shirts, like, I love this stuff. It's
I actually thought those shirts were cool.
They were pretty neat. I
Yeah.
liked them. If I
And
didn't
then-
hate Fam as much as I do, I'd get them.
So the NBC Bay Area crew of Young Kuiper, Cole Kuiper, my friend Carmen Q, and I forget the other woman's name who hosts the show, but they wore Tommy Pham is bad at fantasy football shirts,
Yeah.
which would have been better if the Giants would have won 2 out of 3, but unfortunately they didn't work.
Because they're the Sunday post game, right?
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah,
they do? The Sunday
yeah.
pregame and post game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would, if the Giants would have taken 2 out of 3 or swept them, it would have been like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Nah,
Yeah.
It was like, well, that's a nice kind of
It was fun.
prize.
They were
at the end,
trying.
yeah.
They were very
Sure.
much trying. All right. I know we were supposed to end on a good, and we kind of took it. We're cynical.
Yeah,
We're so
whatever.
cynical, but oh well.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Last segment of
Tough
the
week.
show.
Tough week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the 2 guys each that we are following fairly closely in the minors. I'm going to read some of what Roger Munter has said about both guys as well.
Cool.
Why don't you lead with your 2 guys? You have Kyle Harrison, who's like really the dandy of the farm system these days. And you also have someone who is hoping to be a dandy once again in Hunter Bishop. But let's talk about where your guys are at.
Yeah, so Kyle Harrison, let me pull up the numbers here again. He got promoted to AA Richmond, kind of a little bit of a slow start there. Had a couple of tough outings. Keith Law did a little write-up on him in The Athletic. And it seems like he's settled down a little bit in AA. His last 3 starts, he's thrown 18 innings, 28 strikeouts. Again, I mean, just gaudy numbers when it comes to strikeouts for Kyle Harrison so far. 28 strikeouts in 18 innings, 8 walks, 3 earned runs, 2 of those off of solo home runs in his start yesterday, which he threw, oh gosh, I think it was about 7 innings and struck out 11 yesterday in his start. But Keith Law was riding in his start yesterday. He had riding life on his 92 to 94 mile an hour fastball. So that's always good to see. If you're throwing 92 and 94 and it's moving, you could be very, very nasty. We saw that with Matt Cain back in the day. Any kind of movement on your fastball and you're just going to be kind of lights out. Slider was at 80-82 with some curveball depth to it. And he said that was just gnarly. There were a couple of Twitter videos of his slider dropping in there. I could have sworn it was a curveball the way it dropped off the table. So if he can keep that up, then good on him. His changeup was 84, and that was inconsistent. So Kyle Harrison looking every bit the top prospect, one of the top prospects for the Giants in AA right now.
Do you worry, because this is a velo league, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you see 92 to 94, and we saw this with Bumgarner, but Bumgarner was like closer to like 95 to 97. And by the time he really became Bumgarner, he was sitting low 90s. Harrison's a young kid, so I don't expect the velocity to dip or anything. But sometimes what happens is as these pitchers gain more innings, they lose some of that. If he loses any more, we're talking about high 80s. I kind of worry about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it because I think he actually put on a mile an hour or 2 once they drafted him. So I think he's still probably a work in progress. You might actually see that go up a little bit. Once he gets, because Richmond, you've got some warmer weather.
Mm-hmm.
You got some humidity. Once he gets over to the Pacific Northwest, over to Sacramento, you've got low humidity, and then San Francisco, you got some upper humidity again. I think he can still sit around 93, 94 and stay there for quite a while. It's the breaking stuff. And again, as long as that, let's say he drops to 90, 92, 89, 91, as long as it's moving, I'm not too worried about it, especially if he's leaning on some of the breaking ball stuff. No, I think I don't really see that drop. I'm not an expert when it comes to that type of stuff, but I do know that he added a mile an hour or 2 once they drafted him. So that's always a good sign.
All right, what about Bishop?
So Hunter Bishop really kind of been turning things around. He is in Eugene. He's playing for the Eugene Emeralds. I'll pull up his numbers real quick. Um, I like his splits here because I'm going to pull up April, May, and June. Remember, just his April was so rough. He started out hitting 145. His OPS was 472 in April. 21 strikeouts and 55 at bats. Started to kind of turn things a little around in May. Had a 238 average in May, a 703 OPS. 2 home runs, 36 strikeouts, and 80 at bats. And then in June, he's been working with the roving hitting instructors. In June, 279, a 927 OPS so far in June in 23 games, 86 at bats. Strikeouts are still there, but again, Major League Baseball nowadays is a strikeout league. You are going to strike out. So 28 strikeouts and 86 at bats, but 5 home runs, 18 runs driven in. His walks are way up too. He's gone from 5 in April to 9 in May and then 11 in June, and that OPS up to 927. So really starting to kind of turn things around. Do I see him hopping to Double-A anytime soon? Probably not, because of all the time that he's missed over the last couple of seasons. What is he, 24 now? I think let's see, he was born in 98, just turned 24 years old. So he could finish out this season in Eugene and then get a little Double-A, Triple-A bump next season, play some Double-A ball and then hop up to Triple-A. That's probably doable. We may see him around 26 years old. A late bloomer, a Yastrzemski late bloomer, but only because of the injuries and only because of COVID and the season wiped out and everything. So
I wonder if, obviously, his trade value these days is pretty low.
Yeah,
but I wonder if he's doing enough for other teams to look at him going like, okay, like he's possibly getting back to the guy that we thought he could have been. That would be helpful because, if the Giants are going to be good, they may have to trade somebody. So if he is seen again as a possible prospect with high upside, that could help, especially when it comes to who people are wanting from the Giants. And I think if you ask them, they probably think, yeah, like Hunter Bishop, great. Like we could trade him because he doesn't fit in these plans that we set for him anymore, or at least at this point. But, I'm pulling for the guy because you always want to see a high draft pick do well because it's both not only for the team, but for the guy. Like, imagine the pressure of being a high draft pick and things just not going well. You want to see those stories, all the hard work pay off. So I always root for guys like Hunter. So Roger said that when the season started, so we're talking about Roger Munter, who has a Substack, There Are Giants, and rogermunter.substack.com. I've subscribed to him a lot, mostly for this podcast because we're talking about this stuff. But his hope for Bishop in the beginning of the season was just fewer strikeouts. And he wrote that, he's more comfortable in the box and the results are starting to come, but strikeouts are just going to be part of his game. And he thinks low averages will too. But there's a difference between strikeouts being a part of the game and strikeouts being the game, like it was with Joey Bart. So that's kind of something to keep an eye on with him is, those Rob Deere-like strikeout numbers. That's a callback to 1984.
Thomas Gorman. Yeah.
So, that's something to think about for him. Okay, so the two guys that I'm following, Will Bednar, who was their 2021 top pick. He pitched he's been pitching in San Jose. I got to see him last year. So if you kind of look at his overall numbers, you're probably the back of the baseball card numbers, as we say, you're probably a little disappointed. But if you kind of dig in a little bit more closely, there definitely seems like something of a guy who is trying to figure out, sort of that next level. Now his 4.19 ERA, not great, but
Yeah.
his 43 innings pitched and only 25 hits looks absolutely fantastic. Then 7 home runs in 43 innings doesn't look great, and neither does 22 walks. The 51 strikeouts looks fantastic. So there's a bit of like a inconsistency with him. And I think the worry, and I'm going to read from Roger again, and Roger's been pretty consistent with this. The worry is that he is looking more and more like a reliever than he is like a top rotation guy. And those first round draft picks, those are rotation guys, right? You don't draft Bednar to be a closer or to be an eighth inning reliever. You draft him to be one of your starters of the future. So that's kind of something to look for with him. It's also kind of interesting that they've kept him at single A, because I thought earlier this season, like, man, I'm going to have to go watch the San Jose Giants very early if I want to see Bednar pitch, because he's going to be up in Eugene like in no time. Nope.
Yeah,
he's still in San Jose. So a little, I don't know if there's anything to worry about, but if he is being looked at in that way, I'm sure the Giants are like, hey, this is going to be one of our aces, not, our eighth inning guy. But he could still be very valuable to the club, even if he turns out to be a reliever. Because like we just said, we could use one of those guys to pair up with Duvall as some shutdown innings there. Okay, and of course, I had the easiest one with Marco Luciano, who's their top prospect. Now, he's been injured of late, so he hasn't played that much, and I don't think he's probably going to play for at least another week. But he is in, the high level A, and he is hitting 288 with 8 jacks in 146 ABs, getting on base, hitting for power. Everything is looking A-okay. And there was a little bit of a worry because when he, and this is just Eugene. So when he was like the a little bit of a worry was when he went up last year after killing it in San Jose. Eugene wasn't fantastic for him, and he struggled a little bit. He only hit 217 in about the same amount of plate appearances and at bats as he has now. So he's made those adjustments, and he's played well. And then, I think I would imagine that at some point he does get to Richmond, maybe when he's a little bit more healthy, and then he'll have to make that adjustment again, because he is still young. He is only 20 years old. He is their top prospect. He is their ace. They think he's going to be, probably in 2 years, somebody who makes a big league club. So someone who we should definitely keep an eye on. And for you fans, if you're thinking about, are there any baseball cards of some of these younger guys? Go get yourself some Luciano cards.
Yeah, for sure. And that's always good to see too. When you see Luciano now putting up the numbers at Eugene that he put up at San Jose last year, natural progression. Love to see it. This guy is still, there are no signs that point to the fact that he's not going to be a star in the majors. So that's very exciting to see. So Giants fans, when you're watching this current team and you're going, oh man, our guys are so old. We're here to help you out. We're here along with Roger and Keith Law to look at all this stuff and say, it's going to be okay. Here's our guys that might come up and take its place. And like you said about Hunter Bishop too. So Farhan should be picking up the phone and calling Pittsburgh right now, right? And say, Bednar, we've got Bishop. Somebody's going to like him at some point. So you're right. That's good trade bait. I hate to talk about guys as trade bait, but that's because especially guys that we like and we want to see them be successful. We don't want to see him go to Pittsburgh like Brian Reynolds and then become like a really good baseball player. And then we're like, I don't want him back.
It wouldn't be a bad thing to bring Brian Reynolds back. Bring him home. Come on, Zaidi, bring him home. All right, so we don't do this enough, but I just wanted to quickly mention and look, shout out to Roger. Go check out his Substack.
Absolutely.
We have an interview that we did with him that is in our YouTube feed. So if you want to check that out, BSPN Shows is the YouTube channel. Just search for BSPN Shows. So that's the YouTube channel. As you can see, just search for BSPN, Bay Area Sports Podcasting Network. That'll be the easiest way to find it. And you'll see we have a playlist of Giant stuff. We have 2 other podcasts, so there will be playlists of those shows as well. But to find the Giant stuff, you can find our interview with Roger. Also for podcasts, so we have a podcast feed of the BSPN Sports Podcasting Network. If you can subscribe, that's great for us. If you can rate us 5 stars in Apple, that's even better. We can, I don't understand that algorithm that well, but as you can imagine, there are so many podcasts. I will say there's probably thousands and thousands of podcasts that start every day. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of podcasts that only do like 1 or 2 episodes. We've been going strong for 108 episodes, which tells you that you don't have to worry about us cutting out anytime soon, unless, Brad just is like, I'm retiring. I won the lotto. Life is good.
You know what? If I retire, if I win the lotto and I retire, we're going to do 2 shows. Because I'm going to have time.
So much free time.
Yeah, exactly.
So much free time. And then again, always, you can find us at Thompson to Clark on Twitter, BSPN Shows on Instagram as well. I've been a little lackadaisical on the Instagram stuff just because it takes a little bit of work to get that stuff up there. But we're
trying.
It's a journey. It's a marathon. It's a long thing for us. So we're going to be here for a little while. Okay. But we're also going to have some time off in the next month. So in July, I'm going to be out for 2 weeks. I know Brad's going to be out for a week. We'll try to do as many shows as we can. We may have to go dark 1 week, but just a early heads up because, we both got families and we got stuff going on, but we are going to try as much to make sure that we don't, I don't, have we ever missed? I don't think we've ever missed a week. So, well, we've been pretty good about that.
Remember.
Maybe we may have missed, we may have gone like 10 days between shows, but
I'll be up at Lake Tahoe. Maybe when I'm up at Lake Tahoe for my vacation, I'll do it from a dock. I'll just sit on a dock and you can see the lake behind me, the blue lake, the mountains with still snow on it, and the kids jumping off the dock into the water. We'll do that. Maybe I'll be on my 4th beer by the time.
There you go. So. There you go. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But we're going to be here all summer. I think the team's going to compete. We may even have, the playoffs is a different animal altogether. So we'll be around. But anyways, just want to throw those things just to, we don't mention them as many times as we probably should to get people to make sure they're following all of our socials and everything. And then, Facebook, we also have the Thompson to Clark Facebook group. Check all of those places out. All right. For Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.